Okay, so we're gonna make crepes this morning. We're gonna do sweet ones. First you need to get the batter part mixed up, and then that's gonna need to sit for 1 to 2 hours in the fridge. So you're gonna start with a cup of flour. Then you're gonna take 1.5 cups of whatever kind of dairy-free milk that you want. Just a little bit of salt, probably about 1/4 teaspoon. 3 tablespoons of veggie oil. Tablespoon of maple syrup. And a teaspoon of vanilla. And you just want to mix that up real good. And then cover it and stick it in the fridge for 1 to 2 hours. I went ahead and I poured it into this other cup to put it in the fridge so I can fit it in there better because we don't have a lot of room.
It won't get knocked over.
Yeah, and it won't get knocked over. I can just put this in and close it up. Okay, so we're making crepes this morning. I've warmed up some cherry pie filling. I'm going the easy route there. You can use any kind of fruits that you want in this. You can cook them, you can leave them fresh, however you like. We like it warm. We love to put whipped cream on it. And I'm not going to use my usual recipe that I use for 2 reasons. I don't have powdered sugar, which I can make powdered sugar, but that's going to take some time. But I also don't have my mixer that I usually use. So we're going to try doing this in the Vitamix and see how it turns out. So I'm trying this different recipe that I found online, and we'll see how it goes. It calls for 1/4 cup of aquafaba. If you don't know what that is the liquid from chickpeas. You can get it from the canned, or if you're soaking your own chickpeas, it's just the liquid that's coming after it's been soaked. So we're going to go ahead and put 1/4 cup of this in here. And then a tablespoon of maple syrup. And that's pure maple syrup. And then a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And that's all this recipe calls for. Normally you would use a mixer and let it go for about 10-15 minutes, making peaks and stuff like that. So we're just going to see what happens here. We're going to let it go and see what it does. Okay, so now we have the pan is getting nice and hot. We're going to add just a touch of oil. Actually a little much. Just kind of want to coat it. And we're just going to test this first one out. Sometimes it's a little too thick. And then I might need to water this down a little bit. But you just want to really thin.
It's not thick like a pancake.
No, you need to, depending on this, I can't tell you how much really to put in. It depends on the size of your pan. And you want to just a thin layer. And then you're going to just swirl it around in there. Definitely got a little too much oil.
And this is not a crepe pan.
No, this is not a crepe pan. I have one at home, but unfortunately I don't have one here. So you're just gonna let it sit. You need it to brown up.
What is the difference in a crepe pan? Doesn't it have a high side and it's flat?
The side is just very little on it.
So you get that spatula thing
and it's a
under it?
little bit bigger. But it's still, this is going to work the same. It's going to be a little bit harder to get in there and flip it.
Because I've seen you do the crepes at home and flip them over with a big flat wooden thing.
It's like a wooden spatula type thing that you just slide it right underneath it and flip it. So we'll see. This batter might be a little thick, so I might have to water it down a tad too.
And it just sat in the fridge for what, an hour and a half?
About an hour and a half I had it in there. You want it to be nice and cold. It like sets up some. It cooks a little bit better. You can, I believe, I mean, I've made this before where we've only had a couple crepes and then I put it in the fridge for a couple days. So as long as you use it within a couple days, you're good.
How do you know when to flip it? Is it like a pancake?
It's going to get browned up. So a little different than a pancake, because pancakes you would see a lot of bubbles coming up and the bubbles start to pop and that's when you flip them. This, you can see, doesn't really do that. I mean, there's air pocket getting underneath there, but the first one's always the worst one. Sometimes the pan isn't quite up to temperature as much as you need it to be, but you could see that, I don't know if you could tell it on there, but the edges are starting to get a little bit browned.
Yep.
So you're kind of watching for that. You don't want to flip it too soon, it'll fall apart. And people serve this different. I always take it, put the filling in the middle and wrap it around. Some people serve it as putting these, just folding it into fourths and putting whatever over the top of it. Make sure I got a good hold on this here. So see, this is kind of browned up a little bit. And then the other side, you only need it for about maybe 20-30 seconds or so, because it's already pretty cooked through. You just want to get the other side browned up a little bit. But it does feel a tiny bit thick to me. It's still going to taste the same, it's just a little bit harder to hold it and roll it. I am adding a splash of water too. Make the next one a little thinner. I'm just going to stick that on the plate. Get this mixed up really good before I pour the next one.
You need to put more oil in the pan? Or no?
I am going to put a tad bit more oil. Sometimes, especially since I don't need a lot, sometimes I'll just take a napkin or paper towel. Sometimes I'll just put a little splash. Be careful, don't burn yourself. Sometimes that's best so you don't get too much. And you definitely want to make sure you're not adding too much water, because if you get it too watered down, then it's a vicious cycle of adding more flour back to it, and it just, you just do a little bit, that's better. Good. I had already warmed up some cherry pie filling since we're going the easy route this morning.
Anybody who thinks it's hard being vegan, I got 3 words for you. Cherry pie filling is vegan.
So you just want to put a little bit in there. And just kind of roll it up. And And I've got it set at medium. You don't want to go too hot because you will burn them.
Show that when you get a good view of it.
It's not quite. I mean, it's starting to brown up under there, but not quite. And if you use butter in the pan, of course it's going to brown up a little bit different, but we're starting to get low on butter, so I am using oil instead.
It's definitely thinner than the last one too.
Yep, it is. This already has some oil on it, so I'm just going to wipe it. This one here, I'm going to go ahead and fold it. This last one here, I did put a little bit of butter in the pan just to show you that it does brown up a little bit different with the butter. And I'm plating mine up different than Scott's just to show you the other way that I was talking about. If I can get this flipped over. Kind of hard to do it without me using my finger, but some people just fold it over like that instead of trying to stuff it and roll it. And then just put a little bit on top. If you have powdered sugar and you want to, you can sprinkle a little bit of powdered sugar over the top. Since my whipped cream failed, but it's still...
Didn't quite fail.
Well, it would have turned out if I had an actual mixer instead of using the blender. But I did taste it and it tastes good. It's just soupy, so I am going to just pour just a little bit on the top here just to get the flavor from it.